Look at what he did on old age security. Les gestes de Stephen Harper en matière de sécurité de la vieillesse sont une honte innommable. À Davos, en Suisse, en compagnie de milliardaires, devant les caméras, il a annoncé « Ah oui, par ailleurs, je trouve que les Canadiens ne travaillent pas assez. Ils vont être obligés de travailler 2 ans de plus avant de pouvoir accéder à leur sécurité de la vieillesse. » He said it from Davos in Switzerland in the company of billionaires. He didn't even have the courage to say it here in Canada. There had never been a mention of it in the election campaign. You don't work quite hard enough. I've decided you're going to work an extra couple of years and we'll take $12,000 out of your pocket. The same person who last June had sworn that he wouldn't be touching people's retirement incomes in Canada. You know, my favorite part was when we called them on that and we repeated what they had said in the House last June. Jim Flaherty went before the cameras and said, oh, come on, we're not touching pensions, we're touching old age security. One is a government program, the other one's the CPP. As if Canadians planning for their retirement didn't know in advance what they were supposed to have. And retirement income is retirement income is retirement income. But the fact that they would play with words like that shows that they're not only dishonest, but they play Canadians for fools, where we're going to show them otherwise. So these great public administrators, the first question they asked after Peter Julian's spectacular detailed analysis of the budget in the House, yes, you can applaud it. The very first question that we got from the Conservatives on the other side, believe it or not, they stood up and they said, but you didn't mention that we got rid of the penny. That, as if that was a defining moment in the budgetary process. So let me tell you right now, yes, they got rid of the penny. And they're taking $31 billion out of the projected transfers in healthcare. And we've lost 500,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs in the past 6 years because of the way we're developing the oil sands. We're leaving an incredible debt to future generations. We're leaving them with the debt to clean up the air, the soil, and the water. We're not internalizing the costs, which is pushing the Canadian dollar artificially high. Great news if you're going to Walt Disney World. Not so great news if you're manufacturing something here in Hamilton and you're hoping to sell it to the States. These are basic rules of sustainable development. Internalization of costs over the life cycle of a product, polluter pay, user pay. We all understand that when we pay an extra few bucks for our tires to cover the recycling, it's only fair if your neighbor takes the bus to work, why should they pay out of their taxes to recycle your tires? Everybody gets that. So why is it possible for us to allow the oil sands to be developed in exactly the same way as someone who would be operating a factory, making widgets, and pushing all the garbage out the back into the river instead of paying the normal tipping fee? You know, that's what the real price of the product would be once the inclusion of that tipping fee is brought into the price of the product. They are allowing the oil sands to be developed now without paying the freight now. And that's unacceptable with regard to fairness between generations. But when you talk that way, and you talk about simply being fair, you're actually using some of their own language. If you listen to the Conservatives, they're always about, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Don't look for a handout. Be self-reliant. Well, our generation has to start becoming self-reliant because we're already asking the next generation to borrow $35,000 on average to get a bachelor's degree. They've got a huge ecological, economic, and social debt that's being dropped into their backpacks by Stephen Harper. We're going to help them stand up and fight against it. We can achieve it together. We have to reach out beyond our traditional base, exactly like Andrea is doing here in Ontario. Talk to people who might not have voted for us before. Reassure them that we're going to complete the extraordinary teams of women and men who are already in our caucuses with those who will be able to help us fairly project out confidence and competence in matter of public administration. Young people who have stayed home now, that is an example of where the right-wing tactics of constantly bombarding and attacking the whole political class pays dividends for them, because they keep coming out to vote. But in the last election, fully 65% of Canadians aged 18 to 25, 2/3 of them didn't bother to vote. That's something we've got to change. We've got to convince them that we can do something to help them. Our time has come. We're going to do it. We're going to do it together. You know, the public has looked at decades of the Liberals flashing left and turning right, has watched them sign Kyoto as a public relations stunt. They admitted as much. That's why Canada had the worst record in the world on greenhouse gas production. And oh, were they angry when they were turfed out of office after 13 years of doing nothing, because they said, well, we were just about to get to daycare if you had only given us another 13 years. I come from a tough political culture in Quebec City. Rough neighborhood to learn your politics in, but I can tell you one thing. We know how to put programs in place. We know how to administer them, and we will have daycare across Canada. So let's not be afraid to say that we're in favor of prosperity, as long as there's prosperity for everyone. Let's not be afraid to say that we're in favor of trade, as long as it's fair trade. Let's not be afraid to say that we're in favor of development, as long as it's sustainable development. For 51 years, we've led the charge, we've defined the issues. Now it's our turn to actually take those great ideas, put them into practice by forming an NDP government in Ottawa. Ontario, Lorraine in Newfoundland, Labrador, Dominic Carty, re-elected yesterday as the head of the NDP in New Brunswick. One message: we're going to work hard with all of our traditional partners. We will exclude no one. We will work with everyone who shares our vision for progress. And we will make it abundantly clear that the only powerful interest that any member of an NDP government is ever going to be asked to serve is the public interest. Thank you.